lost in my presentation. Am I good?
Yeah.
Okay, good. Well, I don't mean am I good, I know I'm good. I want to leave you with a story, and there's a danger in leaving you with this story that it can cause emotion. But I think that's what our work is about. It's about emotion. I work for Brown University. And some of you might know that Brown University is in Providence, Rhode Island. But I teach online courses for them. And I have done that for about 14 years. And I teach a course called Creating Culturally Appropriate Recovery Plans in a Recovery and Resilience-Oriented System of Care. I have a problem with short titles. Always have. You should have seen the title of my thesis. It was like a mile long. But on the third week, it's a 5-week course, and on the third week I asked my students, tell me a time when you stepped outside of the box to meet somebody where they were in a cultural context. And I get these wonderful responses from my students. But one day, 1 week, a young MSW student in Vermont emailed me, and her thing outside the box. And I sat at my computer reading her response, sobbing. I mean, heart-wrenching, deep sobs as I was reading her work. And she told me about doing an internship on one of the state hospital wards in Vermont, and how she had a meeting with the nurse practitioner who ran the ward. You know the nurse practitioners are the ones who run the wards, right? Not the docs, not the psychologist, but the nurse. And so she had a meeting with the nurse practitioner off the ward. And the nurse was telling her about the people who lived there. And some of them had lived there in different wards in this hospital for most of their lives, from children. Because you remember when they used to pay us $25 to turn somebody in? You used to get money for turning people in. And so the young woman, she told the young woman about this one old man who was going to come up to her and was going to try to talk to her, but all he does is babble, she said. All he does is babble, and we've never been able to communicate with him, and he doesn't have language. And he's going to try to talk to you, but just smile and we'll go on with our visit. He's going to come up to you as soon as we open the door. And so she told her about the rest of the people living on the ward. And she took the key and she opened the door and then closed it behind her and the young student. And sure enough, here comes the man, the old man. He comes shuffling up to them and starts babbling. And she starts babbling back. The old man happened to be Passamaquoddy, from the Passamaquoddy Nation. And I don't know how many of you know about the genocide that was perpetrated on Native people in this country and in Canada. But he was a victim, or survivor, I will say, of the residential school experience. And at the age of 6 years old, and he was able to actually tell her, as a 6-year-old, how he had been repeatedly hurt. He was raped in this school, and if you've ever seen anybody who is survivors of trauma, whose personality has he checked out. He was still 6 years old, and the only language he had was his own. And that's what the staff called babbling. But she happened to be Passamaquoddy as well. And she was able to communicate with him. How horrendous to be living amongst people and be alone. And be thought of as babbling. We need to understand who people are And when they talk, we need to listen to them. I can't imagine that they didn't see some kind of formation in that language that they call babbling, but they did not. He had lived in the hospital since the age of 6, so it meant he lived in that hospital for 60 years. Alone. Until that young MSW student walked onto that ward. Okay. She brought the tribal council, some of the elders up to see him. He expressed himself through art, and he was a phenomenal artist. And so they bought art supplies and things to him so that he could feel like there was somebody there for him. And they continued to visit him, but I don't think that the old man ever left the hospital. All I could think of was how lonely and how isolated he must have felt in a room full of people who said he was babbling. And how that young MSW student was like an angel coming to him to remove that isolation and to give him hope, even as a 6-year-old boy, because they never addressed the trauma. We need to look at the trauma, ladies and gentlemen. We need to not... Underneath these challenges with alcohol and other drugs, and underneath some of these mental health challenges is a history of trauma. And if we don't treat that, the door is going to revolve. And we're wondering, well, why do they keep coming back? Why are they not getting better? Because if you work with folks with alcohol or other drug challenges and you don't work with the trauma, and everybody has it, we just don't ask the right questions. And when we do ask the right questions, we don't know what to do with it. If you don't address that, it's like giving an aspirin for a brain tumor. It don't work. And we're going to continue to throw money at it when it doesn't work. We need to find out who people are. We need to listen when they talk to us and tell us. And we need to be okay with it, whether it's what we believe or not. We have a challenge with that. We have a challenge with people stepping outside of their own cultural bubble. And I love Anita Purnell Arnold says that a person who is a xenophile, in other words, somebody who is comfortable with all cultures, can step into somebody else's cultural bubble and not break it. People don't have to fit our mold. We need to be able to listen to people with our open hearts, our open minds, and when they tell us this is how we heal, we need to be okay with that, because it's not about us, it's about them. I really appreciate the opportunity to be with you here this morning, to be able to share some of the hope and the strength that we have here in Philadelphia for a new way of looking at our work, because Philadelphia, for those of you who live and work in Philadelphia, and it's not brag, it's just fact, because we have visitors from around the world all the time. Philadelphia is leading the world behavioral health community in transformation of its services away from decades models. We need to be proud of that. And into models that promote hope and strength and recovery and resilience and healthy communities. So I really appreciate you. Like Dr. Evans said this morning, I appreciate your work. I think RAP is RAP and sanctuary and prolonged exposure and trauma-focused CBT. All of these are tools that we need to put in our toolkit. RAP being so powerful. And I mean, anytime you see things that are going around the world in such meaningful ways, you have to take a look at that and say, wow, there's something to this. So thank you for being here.